Welcome. As we continue to explore the mind of a teenage killer, let me share with you a conversation I had with this young man. Through informal banter, I saw a different and frankly insightful side of him. As I suspected in our very first encounter, Raymond Davis and I developed a solid rapport. I liked him and I think he liked me. Whenever we met, however, I never once forgot that I was talking to a murderer. Wanting to know my client in a different way other than the clinical sense, I engaged him in chit-chat one morning. Okay, Raymond, I said, a different set of questions today. I want to know the real you. Are you ready? Yes, sir, he said. Okay, first question. What's your favorite food? A Whataburger, he told me. With onions, I asked. All the way, he said. Okay, your favorite musical group? Florence and the Machine? Really? That kind of surprised me. Yeah, I especially like Shake It Out. I like Florence and the Machine personally. Okay, Raymond, you've surprised me already. Next one. What's something you absolutely refuse to do? His response tickled me. Pick up a dead rat, not even with a shovel. I'm with you on that, I said. How about your favorite time of day? Supper time, he said. Is that when you go to Whataburger, I asked. He said, I only do hamburgers for lunch. I do soul food for supper. All right then, Raymond, what's your favorite soul food? Grits. Are grits soul food? Raymond said, it is to me. Who taught you to cook, I asked. One of my aunties. I didn't like her, but she could cook. Your daddy told me once that you make a real good breakfast hash and eggs. I do, Raymond said, but my grits are better. Okay, next question. What's the worst punishment you ever received? Raymond turned serious and said, I'm not answering that one. You don't want to know. You don't have to answer any questions that make you feel uncomfortable. Okay, here's an easier one. Your favorite form of exercise? Unexpectedly, Raymond blurted out, my auntie beat the hell out of me once and then put me in a closet. I was scared so bad I wet my pants, but I didn't even tell her about it because then she would have whipped me again. I was only 9 years old. I threw my underwear out in the trash. That's why I hated her. Is this the aunt that taught you to cook? Yes, he said. I'd think that eating the food prepared by a person who beat you wouldn't taste so good. If I didn't eat the food made by people who beat me, Raymond said, I'd weigh less than I already do. We paused for a moment. You want to quit, Raymond? Keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to open up old wounds. He then smiled and said, let's keep going. I like this. You okay, I asked him. Yes, sir. If you could live anywhere you want, where would it be? With my girlfriend, he said. Okay, Raymond, I said, I need some elaboration. You're 15 years old. Not many 15-year-olds would say that one place they'd like to live is with their girlfriend. Raymond got proud looking and said, not many 15-year-olds are like me. Okay, moving along, Raymond. If you could change anything about your life, what would it be? Without hesitation, Raymond offered again an interesting response. I would have been a Boy Scout, he said. I always wanted to be an Eagle Scout. Really? I asked. That's admirable, but I would have assumed you might have said you wish you could have changed the fact that you killed a man. Yeah, that too, he said. When you say that too, what do you mean, Raymond? I can't change it. Wouldn't you like to, though? You know I would, Dr. Carter, but it happened. Our conversation had obviously shifted from lighthearted banter to serious issues. I asked Raymond, do you believe something good can come from tragedy? He said, maybe. Not really. What do you mean, I asked. I'm going to prison. Can good come from that, you think? I don't see how, he said. Raymond, when you look 10, 20, 30 years on down the road, what do you see? Raymond whispered, nothing, nobody, I'll be locked up. He stared for a moment and then asked, I guess you won't be able to come see me, will you? No, Raymond, I won't, I said. That's okay, he answered, but I know he didn't mean it. Raymond wasn't okay with that fact. In fact, Raymond wasn't okay with much of anything. Probably the greatest years of my life were when our three daughters were young children. My wife and I always looked forward to putting the kids to bed every night, not because it meant solitude for us, but because bedside conversations with the girls were special. As had my conversation with Raymond, simple chit-chat often turned serious. It was in those moments when we did our very best parenting. That didn't happen with Raymond. He wasn't accepted by anybody, really. Acceptance of another person is a mindset. We walk alongside them, and then we let them reveal themselves to us. About 15 or 20 times a year, I travel to Texas prisons to evaluate clients who are up for parole considerations. It's one of the very favorite things about my job. I've evaluated probably well over 100 murderers, some of whom, like Raymond, have yet to be sentenced, and some of whom are years removed from the moment they redefined their distinctiveness. One of the tasks I undertake when I evaluate murderers who've been in prison for many years is to reconstruct their earlier psychological profile for the sake of comparing their former self to their present self. Sometimes the former offender and the current offender still resemble one another greatly, but more often than not, the opposite is true. Have you ever said to someone you haven't seen for a while, "You look so different, I hardly recognize you"? The person's the same, but he or she has simply moved varying degrees along a continuum, whether it's only a step or two or many miles. Abnormal is what we call people on the fringes, but abnormal isn't necessarily bad. Bill Gates is abnormal. Not only is he a genius regarding all things related to computer software, but from what I can gather, he's apparently one of the nicest men on the planet. In his case, being an outlier is wonderful. Raymond Davis is abnormal. Comparatively speaking, not many people commit murder, and of those who do commit murder, few are 15 years of age or younger. Exaggerated maladaptive personality traits contribute to what we call personality disorders. We struggle to make sense of or know what to do with people whose personalities are disordered. Commonly, we find them to be unacceptable. A week before my playful banter turned serious conversation with Raymond, I had asked him to complete a personality questionnaire. As he responded to the test's true-false statements, he stopped dead in his tracks and looked at me and said, "What the heck does this one mean?" I asked him to read it out loud. He said, "It says, I find it hard to be close to people." What should I put on that one? As if I should tell him the correct response. "What do you think?" I asked him. "I'm not close to anybody, really. I mean, I used to be close to my granny when I was little, but, then his voice trailed off. And none of my aunties were any good. Why did they take me in when they didn't even want me?" "That's confusing," I said to him. Raymond said to me, "I told you about the one who tried to get me on Social Security, but when it got denied, she got rid of me. Remember me telling you about her?" "I do," I said. "She looked at you as a way of getting money." "Yeah," he said. Raymond then stared at the test item again. "I find it hard to get close to people. I wanted to be close to my mama," he said, "but," and then again, he paused in the middle of the sentence. "Raymond, I think your mother wants to be close to you too. I could tell that when I talked with her." "My granny didn't raise her," he told me. "Who did?" I asked. "I don't know, probably nobody, just like nobody raised me." "That's an isolated feeling," I said. Raymond responded, "I used to think adults know everything." "You mean you assumed that adults knew how to raise children?" "They should," he said. "That's heavy," I responded. "I hate it," he said. "So what about the question? I find it hard to get to know people. You're going to be able to answer true or false?" "Who sees this?" he asked. "Just me." Raymond nodded and marked true, and then got back to his business. As Raymond walked along that magical and fearful path each of us follows through childhood, he ultimately determined that all the caring people in his world had flown the coop. He blamed mother figures for his life of poverty. He didn't understand why the adults in his family refused to accept him. Raymond explained to me that at a young age, he vowed he would never again strike deals with people. You know what I'm talking about. If you do this, I'll do that. In Raymond's mind, deal making was a losing proposition. So in response to mounting defeat, my young client tossed aside all respect for others and took over the reins of his pitiable life. And we know how that turned out. Accepting another person means making ourselves vulnerable. I find you when I have found me, and you find me when you have found you. Does that make sense? Discussions about such things as acceptance can be unsettling, especially when we're talking about befriending someone who has committed the dirtiest of crimes. Accepting one another, though, isn't a mechanical process. When you're first introduced to a person, that person has a name, physical features, an address, a distinct personality, and a defined role. But to know that person requires much more than identifying personal features. Knowing people is not the same as describing people. Acceptance of a person like Raymond Davis is a personal venture. We find people when we allow them to relate to us as only they can. Raymond kills a man, and I listen so I can know why and how. Humanity deceives us into assuming that acceptance of you means I should like everything about you, as if relating means buying into your splendor and your repulsiveness. But to assign my point of view to you shortchanges both of us, and then we fail to relate. I'm Psychologist Lee Carter. Thanks to those of you who've subscribed to my channel. Let me know how this study of the mind of a murderer challenges you to rethink things. I'll look forward to being with you again soon.